Hey, Scott Russell. I want to give a little talk about today preparation of our hearts, preparation of where we're going, the community of people around us and how we're to deal with that. I want to start with just a story. I remember one time a lady that I knew was organising a charitable event, and any event, if you've organised them, takes a lot of effort. So at the time, I remember it was just about the fact that the event got cancelled. And so I've done that before. I organised events in Boston. We'd constantly get northeasters and they get cancelled, and it was so demoralising after you put so much into it. And I remember sending this lady some flowers, and I sent them anonymously because it wasn't about me. It was never about me. It was about her. It was about a beautiful heart that was obviously had to deal with the fact that they'd put their heart and soul into something and it was cancelled. And I remember, at considerable cost, those flowers arrived, which was great, didn't matter, and was irrelevant. It wasn't about me. And I got this message back. I guess she'd figured out who it was, and she sent this message back. And long story short, through it, I got, what do you want? Why are you doing this? What do you want from me? And just got throttled, and I just stepped back and said, look, I'll leave you alone. I'll have nothing to do with you. And just couldn't see that she was worth it for no reason. There was no reason. And people don't love today for no reason. And in her case, she's a very lovely person, attractive, and I guess her go-to had always been, people do things for me because they want something from me, or there's always a motive. So when something happened with no motive, it really threw her for a loop, and caused there to be no further contact, really. And it was funny because I could just see the value of that heart. And I mean, I have a friend that his sister came to him one day and said, I'm such a caring person. Not me, but she was saying to her brother that she's so caring. And he said, no, you're not. And she, and they get in a bit of a spat over it. And he said, look, the thing is, you're hanging out with, if we want to get on a scale of 1 to 10, you're hanging out with people that are probably about a 4 as far as caring and empathetic. I'm sorry, a 2. They're about a 2 as caring and empathetic. And he said, and you're probably a 4. So he said, you are hanging around with people that really are not empathetic. They would never be seen that way. They're narcissistic, they're whatever. And he says, but you're good at hanging out there because it makes you feel like you've got empathy and care. He said, I'm not saying I'm better than you. He said, but when you meet someone who's a 10, they don't do empathy, they are empathy. They don't try to care, they care. And they will care and take a bullet for somebody. And in the case of that lady, I think with the flowers, I knew full well that in sending it would probably confront her. I knew full well in sending it, I would probably get misunderstood and accused and abused over it. But in her case, I felt it was worth it to try to honour her for what she was and for her heart. And I think it was a little prod at the heart to say, hey, you've got value, but you sure don't see it. Everybody's seeing your outside. Nobody's bothered with your inside. I'm honouring your inside, and I'm saying your inside's so beautiful, it's time I call that out for more. And so I didn't put my name on it, but, women are super sleuths, they figure things out. But my friend's sister, she took the lesson away, I think, I would hope, that she really was not caring and empathetic. She just was in a world of people that were less caring and empathetic than her. It's so easy to build community around our lives of people that we feel safe with. Because when you get with someone who's truly caring, someone who's truly empathetic, someone who truly cares for your heart, I found with women, they can't handle it. They take it always as being, this guy's after something. He wants to get involved sexually, or he's trying to whatever. And I remember another lady one time I did some things for and got the same sort of response, and but more aggressive, really. And I just remember thinking, you just have no heart. You cannot understand it. You think you're so caring and empathetic, this other lady, but what you've done is mean. the way you treated the person at the other end is mean. In the case, everybody has a heart. It takes an effort to put yourself out there. It takes an effort to do things, and that's called being a man. Sometimes we do things when we know full well we're going to get blasted for it. My son was, at the time, 12, 13-year-old son was, I won't go into the story, but he was abandoned left in Portugal in a home that was used for child trafficking. And it was a time I was not in the country. I was away. And it was when my relationship, my marriage had broken down. And I remember going over there on the plane to pick him up. I'd had no contact with him because that was being blocked. He'd been weaponized. And as I got on the plane and I went over there, it took me 2 weeks, 10 days to 2 weeks before he would even see me. And he was in Portugal, I was in Australia, and I crossed the whole world for him, and I knew, and it was probably one of the hardest things I'd ever done as a man. I knew he'd been accepted into one of the top academies in the world for football, 3-second signing, and I knew that it was not a sustainable situation. And I won't go into the detail of that, it's not the purpose of this, but as I went over there, just the feeling on the plane of saying, I'm going to pick up my son, somehow, believe I can get him, bring him back to safety, and try to sort it out. If he needs to go back there, he can go back, but I want safety for that, because his life matters more than anything else. And in his youth, he couldn't see it, and then the people that were supposed to have been responsible adults around him had made excuses to let that go. Got him 2 weeks, bought him. He ended up agreeing to come back to Australia with me. He came back to Australia, and it took probably 2 years before he had any connection to me again. Now I love him, he loves me, we're as close to each other, but for 2 years I carried the weight of having to make a decision to do something that I knew full well would be misunderstood. It was weaponized against me. I remember the day he realized he couldn't go back because things weren't lining up the way he wanted. He sent me a message saying, I hate you. And of course the people that were around his life influencing that fed that hate. They wanted that hate because it separated him from his father. And ultimately he figured it out, and he's back in my life, and actually came to me and said once, Dad, thank you that, even though you've been a victim, you're not a victim. And he said, and you've taught me that pardon me, even when I'm a victim, don't think like a victim. So a beautiful young man that's been given a wonderful start to life. My point to all this is to say, community. You're going to have people around your life that you don't understand, that don't understand you, but are you big enough to love them? Are you big enough to not understand motive? And I remember one person talking to him, and it was like, I don't have a motive for doing nice. I do it because it's who I am. When I do that, I don't have a motive for doing bad. Maybe I see it as bad. It's who I am. There's one version of Scott. There's not two. And I'll stand by those things. And in relationships, people are looking and going, well, if they do good, or they're acceptable, or I can control what they're doing, then I'll make a decision whether or not I want them in my life. And I think that's abominable. I think the journey of love begins with people falling in love in the spirit first, intercourse of the spirit, then intercourse of the soul, where you're doing things, and then the heart, natural. And that is the way it should be. And as we build community for what's coming, be with people of like spirit. Maybe you've been in a place, a life of abuse, a life of being rejected, a life of being left behind, a life of being misunderstood, a life of being trampled on. You know what, friend? It's an invitation to freedom. Find a new way. That's why a lot of people don't get God, because they think God has to do to show love. If he loved me, he would do this. They don't get it. He's saying, I love you no matter what. That woman that attacked me for sending her flowers and caused, whatever happened there. Do I have any different feelings towards it? No. She's a precious soul. I love her. She's awesome. She's, just an amazing person. But so abused, so misused, so misrepresented that she's projecting her heart onto others instead of being able to say, okay, I don't get this, it makes me feel uncomfortable, but you know what, this is somebody honoring me because of what they see in my soul, in my spirit and soul. Romancing the soul. Romancing doesn't have to end up in sexual things. It doesn't have to end up in, control. It's saying, you're beautiful, let's take a journey. And I got people I'm with, like, do things for like that, and I've never been sexual or intimate with them. It's just a case of we enjoy life together. Now, if that progressed on to other things, then so be it. But that's not something, as a lady I'm friends with here in the city I'm in, Canberra. That lovely soul, met her walking like I'm doing now, walking a lake exercising, and we do a lot together. There's nothing romantic. I've never been sexual with her, and I never will be sexual with her. Because I love her soul. I love her spirit. She's not mine. And it's something I think is so threatening today, because we are so abused, we are so misused, and we're so misrepresented. We just can't get things right. Find that right community of people around your life. Get those ones that really are of the same spirit. You can't make that happen. You live, be you, and let them come to you. And if you've been in that place where you've done wrong, you've been misrepresented, misabused, people have abused you, you're in relationships, what do I say? You're with all the wrong people, in all the wrong places, doing all the wrong things. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. Take the step for yourself, because you've only got yourself to blame. When you've been abused, when you've been misused, it's you. When I did that to that lady, sent those flowers, am I angry at her? Not in the slightly. Not even slightly. I did it knowing full well the consequences of what could happen, but she was worth it. My son in Portugal, I went over there and did what he didn't understand, laid my life down and my relationship with him to bring him back, because he was worth it. Yep, I got misunderstood. Took 2 years before I had any real contact with him. But now, I know he loves me and I love him. Just a precious soul. Friend, set your life straight. Set it in order. Taking steps in that right direction. For me, it was surrendering to God. You say, well, I don't believe in God. That's why, because you're coming from abuse. If you're coming from a love perspective, you'd look and say, wow, I see God in everything. Man, the God of love that created this beauty that I'm in, the God of love that created that lady I sent flowers to and a beautiful spirit, the God of love that created my son and the understanding of life. Walk in it. Walk in what God's got for you, and realize that God speaks to us in movements. Love is a movement. It's not something I do or don't do. Do from your be. When love is your state of being, I be love, and I do out of that. Religion will always have you do something to be good enough. If you're in a relationship, you've got to do things, try harder, work harder, do, and you'll be loved by me. And that's not love. That's abuse. And we've put ourselves in abuse situations thinking that that's love, staying there because it's easier. It's not really not. Wondering why we're alone and lonely. And of course, those people just get busy with life so they don't have to face what they really are. Friend, surrender. Surrender to God. Sit out somewhere nice and just talk your heart to him like we're talking. Tell him and just say, God, I've been misused. I don't even know what love is. God, help me. God, help me. I give you my life. Come and fill me. Fill me with your love and help me love. Let me be love instead of doing love. That's our answer to everything the world's thrown at us. God bless you.